if we can get started there right at the beginning. So how did you come to FFL?
Yeah, so it was early 2018. I was a personal trainer for about 20 years. I moved from Massachusetts down here to Florida, and I went to Florida Atlantic University, got a degree in exercise science and wellness, and didn't know what I was going to do with that degree, but ended up getting a job as a personal trainer and had a very successful career at that. Did very well, worked hard, worked long hours, but was able to fill up my days training some, fairly affluent people here in Boca Raton. And about 2016, I was looking at, life and saying that, gosh, I don't think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And on top of that, it just, even though I was doing well, it wasn't enough, had a family to provide for. So my now wife, but then girlfriend, and I went to 3 Tony Robbins seminars in 2016. I don't know if you know who Tony Robbins is, but
Of course.
yeah, so I saw a lot of people at these seminars that were, seemingly successful, doing big things, and I felt like, gosh, they're not necessarily smarter than me, although some were, some weren't, but they're all doing really great things, and the common theme is they all took a chance and they're doing something that they like to do. So I decided that I was going to find something that where I could replace my income, but something that where I had the freedom of not having to work for someone. So I started an Amazon business in 2016 or 2017 rather, and it did really well in the beginning, and then it kind of flatlined and then failed. So I had blown through $100,000 401k that I cashed out. I went $80,000 in debt.
Wow.
And, later on that year in 2017, I met Nick Ayala, and he and I were working on something else not related to life insurance at all, because he had a few different things going on business wise, but he had opened up an office in Boca Raton, and he invited me to that office because I was working at home out of my house at the time. And I came to the office and I saw a sign there that said Priority Life Group. And so I asked him about that, and he explained what it was. He never really tried to pitch me on the idea of becoming an agent. He was just starting this himself. But what he did do is he told me that this company, Family First Life, was hiring people, and they came from all walks of life. They were Uber drivers, personal trainers, waiters, waitresses, and they were buying leads and making $20,000 to $30,000 or more per month. And I was like, wow, like, okay, A, how come you haven't told me about this? B, what do I need to do to get started? So that's how it all started. So I got my license in March, actually, of 2018. So it's been about 3 years now.
Wow. So you were really in the perfect space. You were doing well, so you had found success in business. Then you were like, well, I really want to go off on my own. And then you tried a couple things, and you had experienced, you had believed enough in yourself to go out there, and, it just hadn't worked out, but you still, I'm sure you had a whole different mindset, after that though, going into that. I mean, because you had already taken that leap on yourself. You had already experienced what it was to like have some success and some failure. And you're looking for the next thing. And this just kind of through your buddy Nick, so you knew it was, so that's warm market, so someone you knew he wouldn't lead you astray, and you were, kind of like we preach about, like, hey, how many of your friends would love to know about this opportunity if you would just tell them? You were like, man, why haven't you told me about this? So that's awesome. Wow, what an evolution just at the beginning, just before you even got to FFL. And
Yeah.
So talk to us about that beginning there. So you got your license, and then you as you said a second ago before we even started, that you were all in from the beginning. Maybe didn't have that great success.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was all in is because I really didn't have anything else. So I had burned the boats. I had failed at a couple different things, and I had a little bit of space on a credit card, and I had nothing to lose. My credit was shot. It couldn't go any lower. I basically had no money in the bank account, and I was in debt, and I saw this opportunity. And I've always thought, like, if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to go all in. And if I fail, I fail, but I'm certainly going to give it my all. And I put my very first lead order on a credit card, and it was
Wow.
$600 on Facebook final expense leads, and turned that into a few sales, reinvested in leads, and issue paid $11,000 in my first month, then 17,000 my second month, then about 25,000 my third month. And that's at that point I looked at Nick and I'm like, okay, so I think I got this now. I just simply need to buy enough leads, and I don't see where I'll ever issue less than $20,000 a month, because it's not hard. It takes hard work as far as like the time, on the phones to make that happen and book enough appointments. But that's essentially how I got started. And I think in that third month was when I really found my groove, and I haven't looked back since.
Sure, sure. So on that 3 month kind of ramp up, I can imagine. So, like you said, you found out at that point you just needed enough leads. The way that you started, obviously in some financial straits, just enough little bit of money on a credit card, but you said you did reinvest. How hard, what do you think your first struggle during that 3 months was, just putting enough back into leads? Was that your struggle, just because you and so much fun, like how did that, I know looking back, 3 months seems like such a short amount of time, but in this business, when you are getting started, 3 months can feel like an eternity because you're working so much, so during that time,
Yeah.
where was like, and I'm struggling how to pose this question. Where did you meet that, like, look, I've got to throw enough in here or this is not going to work?
Well, I think it helps when you don't have a plan B. So there wasn't a fallback for me. So it's like, what am I going to do? I had money deposited in my bank account, but at the time I was 43 years old. 40,
Hmm.
yeah, 43 years old. And I'm like, okay, so I've got like a little bit of money in my bank account, and I have a mound of debt. And someone told me at the time, like, leave your debt. Don't worry about your debt right now. It's going to be there. And you paying off your debt right now means that you're not going to be able to reinvest in your business, and you're going to fail, and you're going to stay in debt. So instead of taking your money, and other than, putting food in your mouth and providing for your family, you need to reinvest in your business. So it was just me, um, basically not trying to overthink this, not trying to do things on my own and go through what my, like, maybe instincts would be, but just listening to the advice from people that were successful within Family First Life. And by doing that, that was really pivotal for me. I would not have had success, because I think our natural inclination is to say, okay, well, I've got this debt, and debt is like, weight on your shoulders, that it's just like you feel like you're treading water, but then you got debt and it's just pulling you down.
Mm.
But so someone telling me that just leave that alone and just reinvest in your business was the best advice that could have happened for me. And I knew, and there was a point too, and it was probably that third month in, where I said to Nick, like, I want to do well at this because I see the potential here. And I'd already told you from the Tony Robbins, that prior year, that I had seen people who were no better than me, that were no smarter than me. They were just working hard, that were successful. So I knew that if there were people that were doing 20, 30, $40,000 or more per month at this, that I could do it too. I just need to figure out what the heck they're doing. And although we have a copious amounts of trainings now with live YouTube's, Facebook Lives, Instagram, all these videos everywhere, this is early 2018, and there were trainings, but they weren't as plentiful as they are right now. But I knew that if other people were doing it, I could do the same. So just taking the advice of Nick, one of the things I said to him is, top producers, like the top 20 producers in the company, what are they doing right now? How can we find out how much they're spending on leads, what types of leads they're buying, how much studying they're doing, how many appointments per week are they running? And
Mm.
he took that information and he ran with it. He called up the top producers in the country at the time. It was Amy Michelson and, Mark Meads and the John Wetmores and all a whole bunch of other producers that are, now Hall of Fame producers with multi-million dollar agencies and some even
Right.
integrity partners.
Yeah.
And we came up with this kind of thing that he used for a while as one of his speeches that he would talk about, and he still brings it up. But this is 2018. At the time, top producers were spending $1,500 per week on leads. And so I just knew, like, how fast can I get to that type of lead spend? Understanding that the money that I'm making, the initial money that I'm getting deposited in my bank account, I didn't treat it as my money. I treat it as that, like, house money or the business money. And, like, I'm going to use that money to reinvest into the business. But how fast could I get to $1,500 per week? And then the average appointments that they were booking was 30.
Yeah.
30 appointments per week. So that's when I realized that, the 20 appointments or the 18 appointments I was running wasn't enough to get to that 30, 40, 50. I wasn't that good. I wasn't closing at that high of a percentage, that if I could just buy more leads, book more appointments. This is all stuff we know now, right? But this is stuff that we were learning back then. That's really what was I think the key to getting consistent at doing this. And now it's just about, teaching our agents that we're hiring, bringing on to this, sharing them the opportunity like Nick did for me, and then teaching them that this whole thing happens with leads. It is the thing that we talk about most right now. And 3 years ago, we didn't talk about lead spend as much. How much are top producers spending on leads? I just interviewed Evan Melcher last week, and he's spending like $3,000, $4,000 per week on leads, but he's issuing $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 per month. And who wouldn't do that?
100%. 100%. Two things that really stood out to me with what you said. For one, is that you had the humility to listen to your friend, which is tough from people that come from multiple experiences where they've seen success. And sometimes we see all age ranges come into this. A lot of folks come in, they're 20, they got a ton of energy. And sometimes those people don't even have the humility. But then you were coming to us just a little bit later in life, into your 40s, and definitely that group sometimes has a rough time. But you had the humility to listen. And then two, you had a tremendous amount, and I said it at the beginning, of self-belief, where you really did believe. You're like, other people are doing this. And if I can, how fast can I get to that lead spend? Because if they can do it, I can do it too. So you had the humility to listen. Hey, let me not attack this debt right now. It's here and it's a weight, but this is a business. I got to build it up. And then you were like, I know I can do this. If I could just get to the place where all these other guys are at, what they can spend and the points they run, I'll be up there with the big dogs. So those are huge things. That's obviously why you're successful today.
And I want to be very clear here too. That was tempered with disbelief and moments of doubt. But I just pushed forward. I did believe that I could do it, but there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, there are some scary moments there. There are times where, like, and we've all been through this before, where it's frustrating because you take that $1,500, you spend it on leads, and then you have 8 appointments in a row that either no show you or tell you they're not interested, and you don't know how to go through that. But you just keep on. And one of the other pieces of advice that I was given in the beginning was not to be emotional about this. Well, how do you do that when you had 8 no-shows or in a row? And I've had days where I had 8 no-shows in a row, and I had to take that and learn from it and figure out how to correct that and recognize that it was me, 100% me, and not the leads. And I think being accountable and not having that victim mentality is something that has really served me well. But eventually I did figure it out. And, but it definitely, there was definitely some moments of doubt there. But there was enough belief in there to put the numbers on my side, not focus on the results per se, but just focus on my level of activity. Make sure that my calendar was full, that I had enough ink on my calendar where there's no dead space, having a high level of activity. Where in the beginning, I was like, okay, if I don't have enough money for leads, I got to resolve as many of those leads as possible in the form of door knocking, putting them into all my leads into Road Warrior, because I was told that that's what top producers do. Okay, don't overthink it. put the leads in Road Warrior, optimize the route, and go and door knock as many as you could. And in the beginning, like when I started doing that, it might have been every 1 out of every 10 that I got a sale on door knocks, but
Hmm.
that could have been a $1,500, $2,000 sale, and now
Right.
I can reinvest in leads, and
Mhm.
so that's it.
Awesome. Absolutely. And the way I think about that, because I was doing the same thing when I got started, if I just got one lead out of just nothing but really putting one more sale, out of doing nothing more, putting a little more elbow grease, and that was enough to pay for all my leads and then some. I was like, well, that is worth it, because then everything else was profit now. And so
Yes.
I love that. I love that. Well, all right, great. Well, you gave us a ton there. So about 3 months, and you said you really felt like you got in a rhythm. You started getting traction, and now did you didn't hit Hall of Fame your first year, but your second full year, or was it your first full year in the business you did?
Correct. So yeah, I sold my first policy probably towards the end of March 2018. So April was my first full month. I did not hit Hall of Fame that year. My first full year was 2019, and I wrote 452,000 for 2019. But there was a time in 2019. My goal initially was not to hit Hall of Fame. I thought that it would have been a cool thing to do, but
Mm.
I think I was afraid to claim it, because if I failed, I didn't hit it, then I would have felt like, oh man, I was like another failure. But
Right.
I just simply put my head down and went to work. And there was a
Mm.
moment where yeah, a bunch of us on our team, a Priority Life, on Nick's team, were putting all of our numbers in Slack, all of our weekly submit numbers. And Nick highlighted one of the agents that had ran 27 appointments that week. And then a bunch of us had a bad week. It was post convention. A bunch of us had ran about 15 to 20 appointments. And the agent that ran 27 appointments submitted $13,000 that week. And I submitted about 7,500, $8,000. Not bad, not a bad week, certainly. But I made a commitment from that point on to write, to run 30 appointments, to book 15 appointments every dial day. And that's when everything changed for me. And then I realized, like, this whole, call it corny, whatever law, this universal law, but I wrote down in our Slack group that I was going to book 15 appointments. I was going to write 15,000 or submit $15,000 on 15 applications. And or 30 appointments for the week, rather, and then
Okay.
submit 15. And I did that. I ran 30 appointments. I
Mm.
submitted 15,000, like $300, just over 15,000. And it was exactly 15 applications that I submitted. So I was like, wow, I'm just going to, like, rinse, wash, and repeat,
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love that about this industry. I was on another team call today, and we said something. There's something inside. And I think it comes from disbelief in ourselves. I think there's something inside of us that makes us want to make things more complicated than they are. Because if we make things more complicated are, then we have natural excuses built in for why we couldn't achieve something. We just have excuses that are already there. If it's super complicated, then we can have a plethora of excuses, and that makes us feel good about what we did. But when you make it so simple and you take away your excuses, it forces you to go to work, because then you have to either be like, okay, I'm a bum, and like admit it to yourself, or like, I need to get to work. And that's exactly what you did. You just made it super simple, and you said, this is what it is, this is what it takes, and you said, I'm going to make it happen, and you did. So at that point, you were in a rhythm, and like you said, you didn't all that speak it into existence stuff. Like, I'm not hating on any of that, but you just put your head down and went to work, and $400,000 didn't fall into your lap because you worked for it, but it just happened. You just wrote it.
Yeah. And, it was like, towards the end of 2019, there was that point where I was like, okay, I'm $25,000 away from it. Now I've got one more month left. And that entire year I'd written over $25,000 every single month. But then it's like, oh man, I'm that close to Hall of Fame. Then I started to get a little bit nervous, and I had like a week where I couldn't write anything because I let that get to my head. I remember having a conversation with a top producer at the time. She said, "Well, how much are you spending on leads?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm spending this much, per month." And it was like $6,000 a month. And she looks at me and she goes, "I wish my lead spend was that much." Her and her husband were spending like $25,000 a month on leads, and they were
Mm,
writing a ton of insurance.
mm.
So she's like, "Just like get off the phone with me, go buy more leads and go to work." So I did that and I hit it. So that was a big change for me, where you realize that all you need to do, and this is one of those simple things. Again, we overthink things, to your point, but if you buy more leads, you'll write more business. And it's the same thing that Evan Melcher said to Sean Mike, is like, "Yeah, I just realized that this is so easy what we do. Why wouldn't I do that? Is it scary at times? Yeah, sure it is. Especially if you don't have any money in your bank account, and then you make all these sales, and all of a sudden you have a few $1,000s deposit in your bank account. You want to protect that and hold on to it, because you never had money like that before. But when you get rid of that and you just say, okay, you know what? Let me just run a business the way these people tell me to run it. Don't count that money as my money. It's not my money. Take that money. They're telling me to reinvest in it, and they've already been through everything, right? They've seen everything. They've tried every different way within this business to do it. Why don't we just take their advice? Like,
Right.
turn off your brain and stop thinking. And like Evan or Ivan just wrote in the chat, just buy more leads.
Yeah, absolutely. So you gave us a ton there. So all right, so we made that very simple. Don't want to spend too much time on this, but just going on the actual in-home process. What was that like for you? As far as, now, I think we spoke before, you were doing a vast majority of final expense in the beginning, including that year that your
Yeah,
first year you hit Hall of Fame. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah,
And what
predominantly. It's probably 85% final expense.
Right. And what did, as far as, it sounds like this was the first time you had ever really done pure sales before. Is that right? Were you doing in-home sales? This was the first time? Or you had some experience
First time.
before?
No, this was the first time, but one of the things I got really good at doing as a personal trainer, working one-on-one with people all day long for 18 years, at that one job. I did it for 20 years, a couple years at another country club. But I listened to people, because when they came in, basically what I was doing was um, showing people what to do as far as working out, but people like to talk about themselves. So I basically just got really good at listening. And I just took
Mm,
that same work ethic, working 12, 13 hours a day in my prior job, to working that many or more now. And when I was in the home, I just already understood how important it is to listen to people. So Sean Mike even asked me the other day, "What do you think your greatest skill is, when you're in home selling?" And I don't even think it's a skill, but it's just like listening to people. And one of the things I learned early on is that the way you get people to talk is by asking them questions. The same thing we're taught on the phone. Whoever's asking the questions controls the conversation. So I
mhm.
just got really good at asking, 3 or 4 more questions in the home. And if someone, if I got into the home and I said, "So what was going through your mind when you filled out that form, or when you filled out that lead on Facebook, or when you filled out that mortgage protection form?" And they gave me an answer, I would always go a little bit deeper, because especially for when you walk in, people don't really know who you are. You're just a guy or a girl, like off the street. Clearly, I mean, you called them and you set the appointment, but there's not that high level of trust just yet. You've got to earn that
Sure.
trust. And trust comes from when people listen and they realize that you care, right? So if they say to me, "Well, I'm 70 years old, and I don't want to burden my kids." So then I would ask a question about that. Like, "You don't want to burden your kids?" I would just repeat
Yeah,
what
you'd
they
mirror
just
it.
said to me and
Mhm.
mirror them. And then they would expound a little bit more about that. "Yeah, I'm 70. I've put this off long enough." And then I would do like what John Wetmore would say: "Okay, you've put this off long enough. So we're going to make sure we take care of this today, so you don't keep putting it off." Very assumptive. in the home, because that's what I was taught through all the training videos. Just be assumptive, ask a lot of questions. Um, for me, it was about being a good student. It was about watching as many of the videos from top producers, like my favorite Paul McLean, ton of Matt Smith videos, Mark
Yeah.
Mead, John Wetmore, all these guys. Even now, I steer my new agents to that, and we have so many more, so many great trainers in this company. But I became a student of that. So, from the beginning, my car was my university. I stopped listening to music. I had learned from Tony Robbins, total immersion. This, like, if I'm going to go all in this, what does all in really mean? It means that we're going to make sacrifices, where if I want to watch, like a YouTube video or a Netflix movie or something like that, or in the car, I want to listen to music. I'm not going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do what I feel like I need to do to be successful at this. And all that helped in the home. I think a lot of
Sure.
times we have this kind of complacency where people come in here and they see other people doing really well, but they don't see the struggle. They don't see, like, all of the sacrifice that they had. And for I would be very intentional with my videos. Watching Paul McLean, I would be home. I've got a family, and I might have been all day out in the field or all day dialing at home. But when I had the time, I would watch the videos. I would take out a notepad and I would pause it, play, pause, play, pause, play, write down scripts, write down objections, write down rebuttals, because I wasn't that good. But I think one of the things that made me better was just running a lot of appointments, experiencing a lot of the objections in the home, taking the things that I had learned and utilizing them, using those techniques in the house to try to get better. And when I left the house, I would do this. I had a notebook in my car, and I would literally write down what went well, what didn't go well, how could I get better? And then also, who can I reach out to if I came across a certain objection? Who could I reach out to that was a top producer that might be able to give me some advice on how to get better?
Sure. Sure. Well, yeah, you gave us a ton there. So I mean, it's almost, there's so much you could ask, one person about trying to walk you through. But when we have so much available, to us, like you said, just hours and hours. I remember, just like you're saying, around the time I was meeting you, I don't think it's an exaggeration. I was probably watching to listening to somewhere around 10 hours of videos a day. Like every time I was in the car, I would go to sleep with my phone like this, watching Matt Smith, Paul McLean in home with a little notepad and writing things, down. And it's another one of those things. If you don't make this too complicated, if you just really simplifying it, like you said, hey, I changed a few things. I started asking 3 4 more questions in the house. I started mirroring people. I started being a little more assumptive, and I was watching a boatload of videos. It was about becoming a good student.
Yep.
And it's been repeated so many times in so many interviews. I've said it, I've heard other people say it, but that's it right there. Again, you need to make it simple, for people out there listening. You got to just make it simple for yourself, and that's the key to success.
Yeah, and I'm still running business now, and it still bothers me when I leave a house and I'm not able to protect the family. And I take it, personal, to the point where I'm like, Matt Smith or Steve Giordano, they would have sold that person. Like, what did I do? What didn't I say? Or maybe I talked too much. Where did I go wrong with that? But I certainly don't beat myself up about it, but I'll analyze it and I'll try to make it better. And I look at, like, the guys that I look up to because of their excellence, like the top, like in sports, like Tom Brady or whatever. They're always trying to get better. So, like, who am
Mhm.
I? There's never a
Right.
point where I think I've arrived, and I'm like, that's like, you're delusional if you think that. And now, like, it's how fast can we grow the agency? How fast can I get better? And now it's reaching out. Instead of reaching out to top producers about how I can get better in the home, it's reaching out to top agency builders about how I can build this thing. How are they able to communicate to their agents that are on the team how easy this is, and how we can just learn from top producers, don't overthink these things. Buy leads, and just continue to help as many families as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little bit of a humility thing. I was out training an agent the other day, and we wrote 5K that day, but I messed up one appointment. And I remember as I was walking out, I was thinking about it, and he was a little newer, and I told him, I was like, I messed up three things there. And I told him, I was like, I messed up this, I messed up this, and I messed up that. If I hadn't messed up those three things, that probably would have been a sale. And then that very next day, that agent, he was out in the field, and he wrote one. He's like, it was the exact same situation. He's like, I did everything you said, and it was a sale.
Yeah.
He's like, but it
Yeah.
was like the exact same guy. So I give myself, permission to fail. It doesn't feel good to fail, but like you said, even the best are making mistakes and learning and growing. You never arrive.
Never
So
arrive.
so transitioning, you gave us a ton about your personal, journey, your personal, writing. Switching over to the agency building side, I know you're focusing a lot there. Where are you these days as an agency? What are you doing about a month right now?
So not enough is the first answer. We got to do
Of course.
more for sure. We should end up somewhere around 750, 800 for March.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, of course. So good answer. And but you're right. But you're doing phenomenal. 800,000, 750, 800,000. So you're knocking on a million's door. At what point in your career did you start heavy focusing on agency building? Was it something you were worried about from pretty soon on? Was it something you really kind of put
No,
off for a while?
no, I'm going to piggyback on, what most top producers say is that they started wishing or started building. They wish they started building an agency sooner. I'm the same. I was so, in a way, selfish. I mean, and not all selfishness is bad, but I needed to get out of the hole that I was in. And, while I believed that I could do what other top producers were doing, I really wasn't thinking about trying to change someone else's financial place, or showing them the opportunity soon enough. And I wish I would definitely wish I had done that. So, and it's a message that Nick was sharing with all of us, all of the managers from the very beginning. But everyone's
Mm-hmm.
got their walk and everyone's got their time. And so it took a
Sure.
little bit of, repeating the same thing over and over and over again, kind of like where I tell my 12-year-old to chew with his mouth closed at the kitchen table. It's like, I still tell him, I've been telling him that for years, and he still sometimes chews with his mouth open. But eventually he's going to get it. And eventually I got it. And I think one of the big things was in October, I guess, of probably 2019, when Family First Life decided to partner with Integrity, and the opportunity that brought. Then I started seeing, this is really big. This is such an incredible opportunity. And then, we had in the Boca office at the time, Andrew Taylor and Mark Mead and Sean Mike all came in, and they basically were talking about what it all meant to become an Integrity partner. And that for me was an eye-opening conversation, and that's when I think I really made the decision that I need to focus. It's not like you stop focusing on personal production, but when you realize that there are plenty of agents out there who are doing both, again, why can't I? And I need to, for my family's sake, do
Sure.
this. And then there was this other realization where I can help so many families on my own, writing $400,000, $500,000 per year. But how many more families can we actually, when you don't make it just about you, how many more families can you actually help by bringing on people and showing them exactly what we do? Now you have an agency that's doing 800,000, and thankfully we're protecting and helping a lot more families out there than I could ever do on my own pen. And so for me, it's like, okay, how fast can we get to a million? How fast can we get to $2 million? And I certainly, my goal, and everyone listening on this, everyone's goal should be to get an integrity partnership. And why not? And all that means is you've helped more families. That's all
Yeah.
it means, is that this is one of the most fulfilling. It's certainly like we're overpaid, like ridiculously overpaid for what we do. But man, it's so fulfilling to be able to help a family, and we have pictures and pictures and pictures of agents that are, taking selfies with the people that they serve with smiles on their
Yeah.
face. And how awesome is it when someone says, thank you so much? Like they genuinely feel good because they know they did something that they needed to do. Maybe they were putting it off, but you pushing in the home or asking those extra questions, got them to make a decision they know that they need to make. And now it's about imparting that knowledge, and sharing that opportunity with as many people as we can so we can touch lives.
Absolutely. So, and that's that's a really cool theme here too, where a lot of people who said they decided to start building it, it's less about your own, success, and it becomes really unselfish. And that's just something I love. Quick tangent here about family first life so much in general. I came from the insurance industry where the people up top were making great money, but it was really off the backs of the agents, this crazy override. The agents were broke, the people up at the top, were making 60, 70%, maybe more than the agents themselves, on the business they were writing. No leads, weren't helping them really in any way. And the decision to build an agency was incredibly selfish because you pretty much decided, and it's like you're making wine. People are grapes and you're going to smash out all the juice out of them. And then when they're done, it's time for more grapes. And for here, it's completely different to where you're like, hey, maybe I'm going to step back just a little bit from the activities that are making me so much money on the front end and let me invest a little more in other people, helping them realize, that same financial success and independence. And then after I've helped enough of them, and then we've helped enough clients, I think Zig Ziglar has a quote: you can get anything you want in the world if you help enough other people get it first. And that really is the core of what agency building about here is. It's just a race to help more people. So that's awesome. So going into that, what are the beginning stages of that for you? What were the growing pains there? Obviously been doing it for about a year and a half now, about 800,000. So you're doing well. How did that look starting? Did you start in a warm, cold market? What mistakes did you make?
Yeah, both. I think I've been blessed to be in an office, for the first 2 years doing this with Nick Ayala, who, there was a time when his agency was the fastest growing agency in all of FFL. And then we have Dave Wichard, who's building a huge agency really fast. But Nick, now an integrity partner, but just watching his work ethic and learning from him, who was not like a top personal producer because he didn't have to be. He had prior success in business before, so he had some money, but he knew enough about what it took, the work ethic that it took in order to build an agency. So just watching him, and then just being fortunate enough to have him say, okay, these are the things that I've done to help build a business. I use these accounts, whether it be ZipRecruiter or Career Builder, and we're just recruiting. But I think the big thing now is it's not hard for anybody. Absolutely everybody can do $30,000 a month. Every single agent that's just starting right now can, inside of 2 months, and many we see in their first month, do $30,000 per month. It doesn't take a lot. It just takes some hard work, right?
Mhm.
So if you're not doing $30,000 a month and then taking that money and pouring it back into the business, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing a lot of other people a disservice too, because there's so many people that do need help, that were in the financial situation that I was in. They need to be told that. But as far as hurdles in the beginning, just the frustration of not seeing money deposited in your bank account overnight, like 2 or 3 days later, like we do on a personal production side.
Right.
Having the patience to understand that when you get someone going, when you share the opportunity and they're not licensed, you're going to have to share it with a lot of people before you get somebody that's actually going to turn around and become a producer and write business and stay consistent with it. So it might take 3 months before you start seeing that, and so
Right.
that's like, and I'm not the most patient person in the world. So it's very easy for people that get into this, and then 3, 4 months later, they kind of slow down or they give up because they didn't see the traction. But if we set the expectation up early enough for them, knowing that it's going to take 3 months for you, if you're hiring a lot of non-licensed people, for them to get their license before they start making money, and then you got to keep doing it. You just got to keep doing it over and over again. It's going to happen. It's going to pop, and then you're going to hire someone like a John Lama, who is a top producer, Hall of Fame producer, and then John's going to bring on someone like a Manuel Escudero, whose team is now doing 400,000 in the Spanish side in Miami, and they're all
Wow.
a part of your network, your agency. Um, and the cool thing is that, like, it's not, I didn't do, you got to have this humility. Like, none of that is because of me. We share the opportunity with people, but we're just showing them what top producers are doing. So if you can have that, where this isn't about me, it's not about like, oh, I made this person, I taught them how to sell insurance. Well, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, just having the humility, and I think another huge advantage, and I said, for the first 2 years I was in an office with Nick Ayala, and then to have Sean Mike move from Connecticut, move the corporate office down to Boca Raton, and be in for the past year with Sean Mike, and to see that, we all see him on the camera on Facebook talking about what we need to do as agents, how we have to have the right attitude and activity, how we need to be humble and hungry. But to actually see him when he's not on camera talking about changing people's lives, and when he's on the phone with people, when he knows you can't hear him but you can hear him, and you hear his heart to really help people, as many people as possible, and you see his like incessant like work ethic. He does not stop. But to be around that is like, gosh, it pushes you, it drives you to do more than you thought you could. So why can't I run, do $30,000, $40,000 per month and build a big agency?
Yeah. 100%. Well, a couple things there that point out to me. So something you've pointed out and many people have said is one of the biggest transitions for people that are top producers in this company to team building is the change of mindset from the no immediate gratification. Especially in our industry, writing so much business with America, this past weekend I wrote 15K with America, and 12K is deposited in my bank account, by Tuesday, so it's right there, it's immediate. But like you said, I talked to 100 people on the phone, maybe 5 of them write a policy, and it's 3 months later, from the
Yep.
day I talked to them on the phone. So you really have to change your mindset. It takes long for things to get rolling, but obviously you're there. Something I love that you said, and is how much you were around Nick and Sean. You pretty much surrounded yourself with successful people. You went out of your way, to do that. You were in the office, you were in places where they were. And of course, just naturally, you're going to start picking up from those people, and a lot of people, in this call, they'd be like, oh, well, maybe Chris was lucky. He just happened to be best friends with a guy running a huge agency. But the truth is, there's so many offices all around. The culture here is so healthy to where, man, just with you, Chris, I think I called you a week after I met you, and we had an hour conversation. I wasn't in your downline. You weren't going to profit, from helping me. Same thing with Nick. I met Nick at a main conference, and me and my buddy Caleb, he went off to the side and spoke to us again for like another hour and a half, and there was an office an hour and a half away from me. I would go there to train with Ivan. I would be there around successful people. So even if it isn't as natural as, maybe you knew this guy already, that's not an excuse I think anyone here can make. Because, hey, Sean Mike's trying to open up like 500 offices by the end of the year. Odds are, if there's not one close to you, there's probably going to be one pretty soon within a reasonable distance. And then yeah, man, just listening to people who were successful. You reached out and you just did what they said. And so that's huge. Well, hey Chris, you've given us so much. I want to be respectful of your time. You've given us a big chunk of time already. Closing it out here, I want to start, just you're our first, and so I'm sure I'll add questions later. I want to start some questions that I just asked to every single producer that we have on here, and just so we can put them up side by side, and I'm sure they'll be pretty similar. For one, are you still running heavy right now, or you're mainly focusing just on the team building side?
No, I'm absolutely running. I mean, my goal is to do $30,000 a month, $30 to $40,000. So yeah, I am absolutely running.
Awesome, awesome. So around $30,000 to $40,000 a month. I'm sure some months, like you said, writing 18, 20 that one weekend, you're knocking that out of the park. How much are you spending in leads to write 30, 40 a month now? What's your normal lead spend?
$2,000 to $2,500 per week. And I'm
Yeah.
running, now I'm running some instance predominantly. I have some campaigns that I've had, like counties I've had locked down for mortgage protection.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's just automated at this point. You're like, I know if I put the
Yep.
numbers in my favor, I'm gonna write it. And who wouldn't spend 10K to make 30, 40, 50? Knock it out.
Yeah.
Just makes sense. And then you already answered one of my questions. How long did it take you to really get in the rhythm to where you felt you're
Yeah.
successful? You told us right about 3 months is that
Yeah.
curve it took you. And then two questions here. One, what do you think is a key ingredient for success that every FFL agent needs? You can't be successful without this thing. And I know the next couple of questions are generalities, so it's okay if you don't have a on their answer, but something that every agent needs to have.
Humility in the form of emptying your cup. It doesn't matter if you're 18 years old or if you're 50 years old. If you're coming into here, we have so many examples of people that are doing this at such a high level. If you can empty your cup, forget about what you know or what you think you know about success in any other business, and just really just do what top producers are doing. Reach out to people for advice and take their advice. And by reaching out, I really mean like reach up to producers that have what you're looking to get. Take notes, respect their time, but empty your cup. And then it's one thing to ask for advice. It's one thing to listen to videos and make your car your university. All of us should do that. But then to actually take action, like massive action.
Absolutely. And then what is one thing that is just a destroyer? You see someone, they have this in there, it's a negative quality, it's a negative mindset, and you say this is just, they're either going to get rid of this or they're just not going to be successful in this industry. What's something you have for that?
It's just investing in leads. There's no way around it. You've got to invest in leads. And a lot of that could be a negative mindset of not believing in yourself. And I had someone who was a top producer that took way too much time off, in the form of like a 20-day vacation. And you can't do that in the beginning. I'm like, I don't even do that now, because like, why am I going to do that?
Right.
If I'm going to take time off, it's going to be a day or a weekend with my family. They're few and far between right now, because they all understand I have a mission. We have a goal, and it's our goal. It's my family's goal. It's not just my goal. But investing in leads has to be it's how you make it, or it's how you fail in this.
Sure. And then last thing, obviously we have a whole bunch of different kinds of people. Some people that are, just getting started, who are listening, will listen to this. Some people who are a little bit into it, like me, who are just starting to write, well, and build an agency. And then some people who are further down the line, like yourself. If you had to have a parting shout to everybody and an encouragement, think something you think would be a blessing to all those people, what would it be?
I think one of the biggest things that I learned in the beginning that served me is to try to remove the emotions out of this. If you can manage your emotions, and there are days like this Saturday, I wrote $11,700 in one day, and then I ran appointments on Sunday, and I sold nothing. But I didn't get high on the $11,000 day. I didn't get low on the Sunday, no sale day. I just learned to manage my emotions. And I think that for new agents, especially, and it's funny, I see even seasoned veterans that do this and they get so upset, they get so emotional about this. If you can remove the emotions and just really focus on your level of activity, that's the only thing that we have to hold ourselves accountable, is the level of activity that we have, because we're going to have, we don't, this is cliche at this point, we're going to have good days, we're going to have bad days, we might have a bad week, but if you focus on the numbers, you won't have a bad month. It's all like, nothing I've said today I think is unique. You've probably heard a lot of other people say what I've said. Maybe it's a slightly different perspective, but I think that's the biggest thing, because I see new people come into this, and it's the inability to manage their emotions, especially when you have the 18, the 23, the 24-year-olds who now have a bunch of money and they think they're hot stuff. They
Right.
think that they can go out and purchase, that watch or that new car or something ridiculous. But to let them know that, gosh, there's so many people that are doing this at a high level, and it's almost like to write $20,000, $30,000 a month. It's not because you're special; it's because you work hard. Now that's special. Go to work hard, and
Yeah.
manage your emotions. I think that's really it.
Wow. Well, Chris, thank you so much, man. We took a good chunk of your time, almost an hour, and but you gave us so much. I literally feel like I dumped one cup out into one full cup into an empty one, man. You just gave us so
Cool.
much, and hopefully I'll save you from some phone calls and other hours on the phone. Everyone wants to know about Chris. I'll be like, hey, just listen to this hour interview and then talk to him, because you're gonna learn that just about everything right here. But you gave us so much, man, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're out there crushing it. Looking very much forward to seeing your success continue to grow, to you becoming an integrity partner, which I know is going to happen. And man, hey, you'll have a beautiful family on that picture, man. I was sharing your
Thank you.
family with a different group on there. I was like, man, you couldn't have a more photogenic family. Integrity needs to make you a partner just for that, just to make themselves look better. But apart from you just being an incredible agency builder. Well,
I'm
Chris,
not
thank you so
delusional.
much.
I know that they're looking at how many families can we all help. It doesn't matter how what your family looks like, but I appreciate the compliment. If I can leave you with one final thing, I heard Sean
Please.
say this last week, man, and I think it's so awesome. Fall in love with helping others.
Mm.
Simple. If you fall in love with helping others, you'll really be successful at this. But I appreciate you having me on. I'm really honored to be the first on this FFL Biographies.